We negate the resolution. Resolved. Water should be considered national property. First, water is a human right and thus should not be considered a commodity. To maintain the human right to water on an international scale, sovereign ownership over water resources must be eliminated. A system with national ownership of water is inconsistent with a balanced global vision that equally protects the right to water of all world citizens. Simply, governments must declare that water belongs to the earth and all species and is a fundamental human right. No one has the right to appropriate water for profit. The commodification of water is wrong, both ethically, environmentally, and socially. It ensures that decisions regarding the allocation of water would center on commercial, not environmental or social justice considerations. Second, national ownership of water resources often leads to management of water resources only from a national perspective, as opposed to in a global context, which historically has resulted in conflict both intra and internationally. We can see this empirically when Khartoum diverted limited water from grazing land in Sudan to commercial irrigation, leading to fighting in the region. One of the foremost problems faced by many nations today is providing water for their people. When water is considered a national property, arguments can erupt between nations. For example, a nation-state might use so much water from a river that a downstream nation-state is bereft of their right to water. This attitude is contrary to the global approach necessary to ensure the right to water for all people is protected. Finally, over 97% of all existing water is currently considered international property. Choosing to consider water as national property would require dividing all existing international bodies of water, including major oceans, seas, and more notably the North and South Poles. Not only is this division impractical and unreasonable, it would most likely lead to international conflicts, as evidenced earlier. Furthermore, international cooperation over water management has historically been effective.
First, we affirm the resolution. Resolved, water should be considered national property for 4 key reasons. First, individual nation-states are necessary entities for governing water resources. It is not clear how the governance of a global commons of water resources might proceed. Who would decide how water resources can be used? Furthermore, in nation-states where water is national property, nations are more accountable to protecting these resources. In a global commons, nobody in particular will bear the direct cost for any overexploitation of resources, whereas an individual state will more directly see these costs. It is better to rely on a system that has greater direct accountability. Second, water resources must be considered part of national sovereignty. There is little difference between water and other resources that are considered national property. What differentiates water from minerals and forests, generally considered subject to national sovereignty and ownership? They are all finite resources of the earth that are exploited by humans. Water's presence in the territory of a nation-state is often very specific to the geographic features and climate within a nation. The people of a nation often identify very strongly with these water resources and geographic features, considering them part of their national heritage, identity, and within their sovereign control. This all strengthens the notion that water is a resource that can be owned by a nation-state. Third, water is a national security resource that states must be able to own and protect. Securing drinking water for nations and water reserves for emergencies is very important, but this cannot be done if water is considered part of an international commons. Former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Ezra Taft Benson stated, "Water has become one of our major national concerns. Who decides in a crisis, for example, how emergency water supplies should be used? These critical decisions cannot be left to the whims of the international community. States must own certain water resources so that they can make quick emergency decisions to protect their citizens and national security interests." Fourth, sovereign control over water and international legal controls can coexist. The UN's Conference on the Human Environment, held at Stockholm in 1972, created the Stockholm Principle 21, which gives states full sovereignty over their natural resources, while demanding that they act responsibly toward the global effects of resource exploitation. These, as well as other legally binding international measures, are all ways to enable sovereign ownership while achieving the desired goal of providing water for all. Violating national sovereignty is therefore an excessive and not necessary achievement to the desired result.